Hello? But Muhammad, Wale Muhammad Salwat. If you guys sit down, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad Wale. You guys please sit down so we can start the program. I don't know what's wrong with that. You have to speak closely.
Yeah.
Very closely.
Yeah. Maybe down here. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم. إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم ليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. ما أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم انفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعدك الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمر ننكس في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما لفهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند مهذرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي ينشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقنون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. سورة المبارك الفاتحة المؤمنين والمؤمنات especially آل الرسول بيبي فاطمة عليه السلام عليها.
حديث كسان اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت يا فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمان فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدا يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء، فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولده الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. صل على فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا ببحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. صل على. فقال جبرائيل يا رب يتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله عز وجل نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبت الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سورة مباركة الفاتحة.
صلوات. آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، پردہ شب میں میری میت اٹھانا یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، پسلیاں توڑی گئی کیسے یہ بتلاؤں گی میں، حشر کے میدان میں بھی اس حال میں آؤں گی میں، ہاتھ پہلو سے نہ تم میرا ہٹانا یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، وہ مصیبت آپ نے اچھا ہوا دیکھی نہیں، اب میں سیدھے ہاتھ سے تسبیح پڑھ سکتی نہیں، ایسا کنفذ نے ہے مارا تازیانہ یا علی یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، تازیانے کی اذیت کا اٹھانا ایک طرف، وہ تماچے قتل محسن در جلانا ایک طرف، سب سے مشکل تھا مگر دربار جانا یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، جب میری تلقین پڑھنا یاد کر لینا ذرا، در کے گرنے سے میرا بازو بھی ہے ٹوٹا ہوا، میرے شانوں کو ذرا دھیرے ہلانا یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، چاہے آ جائے قیامت مجھ سے یہ وعدہ کرو، جب تلک مولا میرے شبیر کی مرضی نہ ہو، ارے تب تلک میرا جنازہ مت اٹھانا یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، جب سے آئی ہوں پلٹ کر فکر ہے مجھ کو یہی، میں تو پردے میں گئی پھر بھی ضعیفہ ہو گئی، بیری دا دربار ہے زینب کو جانا یا علی، کربلا میں جب میرے مظلوم پر خنجر چلے، پیاس کے عالم میں وہ غازی کو جب آواز دے، میں بھی آؤں گی وہاں پر تم بھی آنا یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، ہاتھ پہلو پر رکھے بولی تکلم فاطمہ، میں دعا کرتی ہوں تم آمین کہہ دینا ذرا، جلد آئے میرے مہدی کا زمانہ یا علی، آج رخصت ہو رہی ہے تم سے زہرا یا علی، صلوات۔
اور محمد والی محمد صلوات۔ آخر اسی طرح سے یہ دست پاک غم میت کو پھر کفن بھی پنایا بچشم نم، تابوت میں جو لاش لتائی بسد علم، تب آل مصطفیٰ سے یہ بولے شہ امم، کر دو وداع تم سے وداع اب بطول ہے، یہ آخری زیارت بنت رسول ہے، یہ سن کے اہل حرم دل فقار، تابوت فاطمہ پہ ہوئی بیان نثار، مل کے گلے سے لاش کے زینب تھی اشک بار، کلثوم پاؤں چومتی تھی ماں کے بار بار، گل تھا کہ وقت ماتم بنت رسول ہے، یہ آخری وداع ہے جناب بطول ہے، پر جب جناب شمرو شبیر نیک نام آئے بنا علاش کو دل اپنا تھام تھام تب فاطمہ کے بندے کفن کھل گئے تمام نکلے کفن سے دشتیں بطول فلک انا یہ بوز میرا احمد مرسل اٹھائیں گے تابوت فاطمہ کا محمد اٹھائیں گے بر محمد والے محمد صلوات بولے کفن میں کھول کے رخسار فاطمہ مشتاق آؤ دیکھ لو دیدار فاطمہ بر محمد والے محمد صلوات
Sheikh Bilal, Dr. Dungersi, respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman, Adam Allah ajurna wa ajurakum. Tonight's niyaz and majlis is sponsored for the Isal Thawab of the following marhum Mushtaq Khalfan, marhum Mumtaz Khalfan, marhum Ahmad Khalfan, marhuma Zainab Khalfan, marhum Akbar AP Hirji, marhum Onali Chatu, and sorry, it's marhuma Mumtaz Khalfan, marhum of Khalfan, Hirji, Tejani, Isa and Jamal families. And tonight's Surah Yasin has been sponsored for the Ithal Thawab of the marhumeens that are displayed on the screen. Let us recite Surah Fatiha for all marhumeens. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tomorrow, Sunday, Madrasa will start at 10:45 a.m. A few questions to keep in mind before Sheikh Bilal's lecture, which we will keep on the screen and during his lecture throughout the program, is why is spiritual uniqueness of Bibi Fatima important? How is Bibi Fatima uniquely mentioned in Hadith Qissa? Give one reason why Allah's pleasure is tied to Bibi Fatima. What does Fatima mean? What does Kawthar mean? And what is a body called when there is no soul in it? Please join me in reciting the ayah of Amma Yujib 5 times for all those who are sick here and around the world. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. I'd like to call up our president, Brother Hussain Aziz, to say a few words. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala.
Our resident Alim, Sheikh Bilal, my elders, my brothers and sisters in Iman, Salamun Alaikum. Our condolences to the family of our Holy Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Salli ala Muhammad wa ali. On these nights of Ayyam and Fatimiyyah, where we commemorate the Shahadat of the mother of our Imams, Janabi Sayyida Fatimiyyah al-Zahra, let us keep each other in du'as on these nights, inshallah. I have a few important announcements, beginning with the most current status of our Mahdi Center expansion project. My team is committed to providing our community members timely updates as we embark on this initiative. Alhamdulillah, with the utmost praise to the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have officially begun the process to file our application with the town of Oyster Bay for the construction. The prerequisites were, number one, retaining a lawyer, and we have managed to enlist Ms. Judy Lynn Simonchich, who is not only a lawyer, but a deputy managing partner for Shelley Deegan Terrana LLP. She began her career working in the Oyster Bay Town Attorney's Office, and she is currently the chair of Municipal Law and Land Use Committee of Nassau County Bar Association. As we were looking for an attorney, it was important for us that we obtain one with the know-how of the inner workings of the town of Oyster Bay. She has appeared before municipal boards in the towns, villages, and cities in Long Island on a wide range of zoning applications. And best of all, she also knows all the key players in the town of Oyster Bay Building Department, including Team Zaik, Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Buildings for the town of Oyster Bay, and whom Brother Muntazi Jamal, our Vice President, I had an opportunity to meet when we visited the Department of Buildings a few weeks ago. Number two, aligning a site planner. We have Mike Rent on the project. There's a continuity here. He works for North Coast Civil LS and PE, same company which was hired by Brother Muntaza Nathani and his team, and were involved in getting the site plan approved after our center was purchased. We will now work with Mike to help us prepare the topographic map of existing conditions with elevations. And a site plan has to be prepared with our application, as there will be a change with associated site improvements. A site plan review application will be filed, a radius map with owner's search performed, and a short environmental assessment form prepared. He will also attend the public hearings, as will we, when the time comes. Number three, architect. We will continue to have our current architect, Brother Ali Gavari of EAB Architectural Designs. Most of you know him, and he's very much part of our community, where he and his family attend functions, and is part of the Muhammadiyah Islamic Center and Afghani Shia community in Brentwood. He has been incredibly helpful and has already been hard at work to help us get through this phase, working closely with the team which has been assembled. And of course, our own Ali Shivji and Afzal Sherali, who both work in the New York City systems as architects and civil engineers, will continue to be solicited as this project moves forward. Number four, construction. Long Island Building Systems is the company we are going with. Of the three companies we solicited estimates from, this company came across most prepared and has been involved in projects across Long Island, Nassau, and Suffolk County. Brian Neelan, who serves as the president, and Bill Walsh, who is the director of construction, were personally engaged from inception. They run a company that is a premier construction management company that is selective in the projects they choose to work with, and their client list ranges from New York City Police and Fire Department to New York State Department of Transportation to major companies in Nassau and Suffolk counties to small businesses. And this over 30 years, where they have a proven history of new construction and remodeling existing structures. They pride themselves in fast-tracking projects while adhering to due diligence design and budgeting, and eliminating possibility of surprises and backtracking, keeping the project on time and within budget. I requested our Vice President, Brother Muntazir Jamal, to lead this project. And while he's traveling at the moment, I want to acknowledge his efforts in helping put this team together. He has spent a great deal of time ensuring we were selective, while also ensuring that the chemistry was right amongst the project team members. We will, inshallah, be formally bringing this project team in front of the community in early 2024 during a Kushali night, so that our community can get to know them and ask them questions. I also want to make a special mention of our community members who have helped us in a huge way to get going. When we did our initial estimates for the cost to get us past this phase, meaning up to the time we get our approval to move forward with the construction from town of Oyster Bay, it came to approximately $150,000, which includes a $50,000 retainer for the construction company. And by the way, this was going to be much higher, usually 10% of the overall contract, and which would have translated to $300,000. But I must thank Brother Mazhar Khalfan, who gave us a negotiating approach to bring the number down. The rest of the funds will be for legal fees, site planning, and architectural designs, with a buffer for unforeseen expenses. To know that we have a community members who, upon one phone call, have stood up and said, Hussain, move forward. We are behind you and your team. Truly, I'm humbled, I'm thankful, I'm grateful. While some pledges are still coming in, we are without question ready with the funds to move forward with the application. May I ask you all gathered here on this auspicious night to recite a loud salawat for all the donors and their families. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. To our donors, you are truly Allah's gems. May the Almighty continue to increase your rizq. And with the wasila of Janab Fatima, we pray to the Almighty that He may continue to keep you, your family members, including your children, in the way of Muhib of Ahlul Bayt. This project will allow us to extend the use of the facility to every corner of the center. And there will be a day when our Madhloom Imam, the King of Martyrs, Aba Abdullah, will be remembered in every corner of the center, and that is what we aspire towards, inshallah. Last weekend, we hosted the Burial Assistance Program special meeting here at our center. Firstly, a massive thanks to all our committee members who made it. It had been some time since we had a similar meeting, and clearly there were a host of issues that had to be discussed. To begin with, our most sincere thanks to Murtaza uncle, Makbul uncle, and my least favorite brother-in-law, Shani Darsa. The BAP team presented the Sijni burial protocol, a detailed 10-step process from the time a death takes place, starting with how to position the body and the subsequent steps in contacting the BAP team and what follows until the last rites are performed. It was so well received that we have committed to getting the protocol printed and laminated and made available to every member of our community. Murtaza uncle will be carrying out some updates, and as soon as that is complete, expect the protocol to be made available. This should be done by the time we start 2024. There was also a detailed discussion on purchase of additional graves and where. We currently have between 250 and 300 graves remaining between our cemeteries at Washington Memorial on Long Island and Rose Hill Cemetery in New Jersey, with our community headcount at almost 1,500. Clearly, there's a need to purchase more. And our current locations are not permitting bulk purchases, and the costs per grave continue to increase. For example, the graves at Washington Memorial at the time of purchase was around $650. Today, the price per grave is over $9,000. One of the benefits of being a current with your membership is that the funeral costs are covered by the Jamaat. However, the funeral costs covered do not include the price of the grave. I'll repeat it one more time. The funeral costs covered do not include the price of the grave. A very important resolution was passed this past weekend at the BAP special meeting. And I want you all to listen very carefully, for this is effective now. And this applies to mu'mineen who don't own a grave. If at the time of death, the deceased is current in his or her membership, the cost of the grave for the deceased will be 50% of the prevailing rate. And so if the burial was to take place at Washington Memorial, that cost would be $4,500 for the grave. And if the deceased is not current with his or her membership, the cost of the grave would be the prevailing rate, which is $9,000. In the event the Jamaat was to purchase additional graves, the above resolution will need to be revised. And I get a question that, wait a minute, Hussain, we purchased the graves at $650, why are we charging $9,000 if the person is not paid up, does not own the grave? It's very simple. The graves have to be replenished. So if the deceased, unfortunately we don't pray for this, but say that they had not purchased a grave, now we have to allocate a grave to the individual, the Jamaat has to bear the cost of the replenishment. That's the reason. And please, if you have any further questions on this, please meet any one of our BAC team members. They're here, they'll be more than ready to assist you. One of the main reasons my brother Safraz Lada is trying to see if the Jericho property can be converted to a cemetery is for this reason, the continued increase in costs. Inshallah, he'll be coming back to us by March 2024 to let us know as he navigates the waters. May the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to give him strength in this noble effort. One feedback we did get is that not many youths were there for the BAC meeting. I can assure the community that as we move forward, there'll be close coordination with our sporting teams when meetings take place, so as to encourage participation. And once our multi-purpose hall is built, combining sporting events with these meetings should enable us to pull in youngsters and our youth. And I know all the heads of the sporting teams of our Jamaat, both ladies and gents, are with me on this. Inshallah, the youths who serve so well in the kitchen and around the center, both on the ladies and gents side, are now a big part of our volunteering crew. We will also be taking more and more part in all our events. We are truly blessed to have them. As you all are aware, there's a strong push towards covering the deficit in our Alim fund. Mu'mineen. This fund allows us to carry out all the terrific programming throughout the year. As you have all noticed, we are hosting a record number of programs at our center. Tabligh is at the core of our existence. Over the years, a few donors have been carrying us. And in discussions, I felt the community needs to be a part of it. Funding aside, there is a great deal of thawab involved. In the Quran, we find one of the last verses revealed to our holy prophet. And this can be seen in chapter 5, verse 67. And both the Shia and Sunni faith believe in this ayah, revealed during our Prophet's farewell Hajj at Ghadir Qum. And this was also the time we Shia believed that our Prophet laid the succession path for Imam Ali. The ayat revealed says, O messenger, proclaim that which has been sent down to you from your Lord. And if you do not, you will not have proclaimed his message, and Allah shall protect you from the people. Insha'Allah, do not guide the faithless lot. Work associated with Tabligh has this at the very core, and its very core, and it allows us to profess our faith, consisting of what is in the Holy Quran, the hadith of our Holy Prophet, the teachings of our Imam, beginning with Imam Ali, our Prophet's rightful successor, and the Messiah of our Ahlul Bayt, all to be kept alive via Tabligh. And it is via your help that all of this is made possible. Donors have come forward and said they will match the community's contributions. To them we say, may the Almighty reward you infinitely. And so, mu'mineen, before you leave the center tonight, and if you have not done so, consider a contribution of $250 per family towards this noble cause. And may the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and your family, insha'Allah. Muhammad Hassan Allu, who is sitting at the back there, is available to assist, and I will ask our sisters to meet up with Sister Sheila Darcy or Sister Femina Jivraj. And one final announcement is on behalf of our volunteers. They are requesting all our mu'mineen to be mindful of disposing of the used plates, cups, and articles after they are done eating. Unfortunately, what is happening is that mu'mineen, and sometimes unbeknownst to them, are leaving behind cups with chai and soda, resulting in spillage on the carpet and adding to the work of volunteers in maintaining cleanliness. And this also applies to tabarruk, which is left behind. Mu'mineen, in one of the hadith of our Holy Prophet, it is said that he commanded places of worship in Islam not only to be built amongst houses, but also be kept clean and perfumed. This is at the core of our akhlaq and being a Muslim. And therefore I'm requesting on behalf of our volunteers, who I know you all care for deeply for the service they continue to render to the community through their selfless actions, that you do your part and dispose of the used articles once you are done. And if you see an elderly person, please offer your help and ensure cleanliness is observed. May the Almighty reward you all, inshallah. And to part mu'mineen, I will be heading to Dubai on Thursday for a personal visit, but I do intend to use some of the time to meet with our community members there and to share with them our project. I ask you all to remember me in your du'as, inshallah. And just so you, by de facto, with me and Muntazir being out, I'm now going to tell you that Brother Amir Dirani becomes the youngest leader of our community, and I know he is very, very capable. Where's Amir? Okay. Let us remember all our Muslim brothers and sisters and children suffering in all parts of the world. Please do not forget our Palestinian brothers and sisters. Allah has undoubtedly given them the mother of all tests, and they are a resilient nation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that I will test you with what your shoulders can bear. And they are a nation of people with the broadest shoulders known to man today. May the Almighty give them patience, and may He bring them everlasting peace and a great victory, inshallah. And let us remember all our marhumeen, including those killed in Palestine, and remember everywhere all those Muslims who are no longer with us throughout the world. Al-Fatiha. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh Bilal, tafadhal. For Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, salawat.
رحم الله من يقرأ سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. Your second salawat for love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And your loudest salawat as condolences to the master of our time, Sahibul Asri wal Zaman. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بذكرنا المسائب آل Muhammad. May Allah increase in our reward for commemorating the difficulties of Ali Muhammad. We started a discussion yesterday talking about how Allah has granted our Prophet Khayr al-Kathir, a great goodness. In understanding this, how we looked at Surah Al-Kawthar relating to a great blessing being in the form of this daughter that is given to the Holy Prophet. One of the aspects we mentioned was the idea of how the Prophet was referred to as Abtar, and someone who is Abtar has no lineage, and the aspect of giving him Khayr al-Kathir is that lineage then has to persist, because as Allah mentions, Inna sha'niyaka huwa al-Abtar, it is your enemies those who will have no lineage, no continuity. So one of the elements that we have to see is that Khayr al-Kathir, the great goodness that is given to the Prophet, that lineage has to continue. The khayr al-kathir that is given to our Prophet has to be something unique. Let me explain something. A person cannot be like a Nabi. The Nabi is the example, but you can't be like a Nabi, because what that would mean is that there is no hand of the divine behind the Prophet. The Prophet has to be something unique. The Prophet's attributes have to be unique. Which is why when we talk about our Holy Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he was flesh and blood. He ate, he slept, he sat, but he was unique. He did not cast a shadow on this earth. He had a perfume that was unlike anything else, which is why, for example, in Hadith Kisa, which we'll reference in a little bit, إِنِّي أَشُمُّ عِنْدَكِ رَائِحَةً طَيِّبَةً كَأَنَّهَا رَائِحَةُ جَدِّ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. Here the Imam is explaining to you that while this Prophet is a human being, he's unlike anyone else. That he possesses a smell, a scent that he was famous for, that anywhere our Prophet went for 3 days, it would smell in a fashion that anyone could tell that the Prophet had been here. Meaning that a Prophet has to be unique in society. Therefore, what he is given that is a goodness to him has to be unique in the aspect that it can be like nothing else. Which is why from the one element that we talk about is, yes, that Allah is giving him the continuity of his lineage through his daughter. He's also giving him qualities in a daughter that is khayr al-kathir, that can be like no one else, which is why she is also referred to as Sayyidatun Nisa'il Alameen. That she has to be the leader of all of the women of the world, because she is the daughter of Rahmatul lil Alameen, and she is the goodness that was given to the Prophet that no one can be like her. So from one element we mentioned yesterday, that physically there is no one else like her. That there were elements of her admission and support to society and humanity as a whole, which made her unique in her ability to change and mold, give the benefits to society that are necessary for society to improve and better itself. When we start to understand this aspect, there's a few interesting points that come along the way. One is the statement that what is given to the Prophet and the Ayyam has to be unique. It can't be like anyone else. Now this isn't just for Sayyidah Zahra, this is also for personalities like Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Which is why in one instance, our Prophet makes a statement, he says, there is no man on this earth that the sun shines upon that is more truthful than Abu Dhar. Speaking about the fadail of Abu Dhar, Rasulullah is explaining that the truthfulness of Abu Dhar, no one can compete with him in his honesty and truthfulness. And someone came forward and he says, if Abu Dhar is the most truthful, then what about Ali ibn Abi Talib? Rasulullah angry explains there is no comparison between Ali and someone else. Abu Dhar is amongst you, that's why I give you the comparison that none are you like him. But Ali is above the rest of you and you cannot be like Ali. This aspect of the uniqueness that the Imam, the Ma'soom, has to possess is one of the necessities to be able to recognize who is the authority of Allah on this earth. To be able to recognize where does the authority go, that it can't be something that is visibly confusing to a person. Otherwise we would say, how could we determine? For example, our seventh Imam had 37 children. If the Ma'soom is not easily identifiable by his attribute and characteristic, you would say 37, 18 of them were boys, which one do I know is the Imam? But the Imam's attributes have to be unique. They have to be something that set them apart so that humanity can recognize and understand who it is that I have to follow and support. Which is why the Prophet would explain, and he says, if you see Ali enter a valley, and you see the rest of humanity go down a different valley, follow Ali and no one else. The explanation of this statement is to show that the character that Ali will possess cannot be replicated in any other format, which is why now when we look to what Allah gives the Prophet, it has to be something that cannot be replicated in any other personality. No one can approach the uniqueness of that status, whether we talk about the social benefit that is given, the nature in which it is given, or the spirituality by which it is presented. One of the important aspects to notice is when Allah says, Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar, I gave you khayr al-kathir. Did He give him a son? He gave Rasulullah a daughter. This aspect, if we were to understand and analyze this point within itself, we would see and recognize that daughters are something that is a great goodness, something to desire. It is something valuable and important. First and foremost, understand something. Having children, and some may like this and some may not like this, but you have to hear it today. Having children is recommended in Islam. Having many children. Our Prophet loved children. He loved the aspect of having children, and he told us to have children. تناكحوا تناسلوا تكثروا فإني أباهي بكم الأمم يوم القيامة ولو بالسقط. Go out, get married, stay connected, have children, and I will intercede on your behalf on the Day of Judgment. The Prophet was telling us this, that this is how he wants to see our nation to grow and to develop. Our Prophet wants this to be an attribute. There's this concept in modern society that children take away from me. It's the exact opposite. It's something that you have to talk about with your generations and your families to explain to them that possessing and having of children is not just mustahab, it's something that connects us to the identity and ideology of our faith and connects us to our akhirah. Think of all of those who have lost loved ones. Do we forget them? No, we pray for them. We remember them. We stay connected to them. That genealogy continues. That process of supporting someone who can no longer support their own book of deeds continues through our actions. This is an investment in our akhirah. It is an investment in the goodness of the nation of Rasulullah to have children and to raise them well. It was something Rasulullah preferred, and it was something that was demonstrated through the example of the great goodness that he received. That it is not just boys that you should be proud of and happy about that they can provide and sustain you with, but rather that if there is something to possess that has a great goodness that cannot be paralleled in anything else, it is the possession of a daughter. Which is why there's a hadith of our Prophet where a man who has 3 daughters, Rasulullah says, Abashiruka bil Jannah. I give you the glad tidings of heaven, you have raised 3 daughters. And as long as these daughters are raised in the path of Islam, I guarantee you Jannah. So the man with 2 daughters comes and says, Ya Rasulullah, what about me? Rasulullah says, even you with 2 daughters, I guarantee you Jannah if you raise them in the path of Islam. So then of course, if the 2-daughter one got it, the 1-daughter one comes and says, Ya Rasulullah, what about me? And Rasulullah says, even you I guarantee Jannah, that one who raises 1 daughter in the path of Islam, I guarantee you Jannah. There's no guarantee for a son. For a son, Allah asks. Doesn't mean don't love your boys. Love your boys. It's very important. But sometimes we can easily and evidently understand the benefits in a son. We can say, this one will take care of me. He will provide. He will this. He will that. He will protect me. And society makes you question, what's the value? Here Allah is explaining you the value of what it is to possess this daughter. And He says, if there was anything better to give to my Habib, my beloved, I would have given it to him. There is no one better than Rasulullah. Yet the continuation of his lineage is through this one, Fatimatu Zahra, Salamullahi alayha. When we talk about the concept of Khair al-Kathir, a great goodness that is provided to our Prophet through the example of his daughter, that great goodness, as we mentioned, cannot be paralleled in any other person, and it has to be a complete great goodness. That goodness, that khair, has to be complete. Which is why one of the aspects when we take a look at a human being is a composite of both spirit and body. We're not just a material element that we measure goodness or greatness or qualities within the physical entity. One of the issues that we possess in the culture and society that we live in is that it is a materialistic based environment. The consequence of a materialistic environment is it addresses half of a human being, not the entire human being. So what happens? We wind up not addressing a human being entirely, and it's as if the nutrition is only done in half of the sense. A person who only follows half of the nutrition is not a healthy person. We say for a person to be healthy, they have to look at their nutrition in its entirety. It's not enough that you possess 1 or 2 or 3 categories of the nutrients that a person possesses. You need to have all of them present, and then you are complete. In the same way, a human being, when we refer to a human being, even in the language of technical speech, we say, هذا جسم. This human being is a body. This term of jism applies to that body which is included with the soul. As soon as the soul is removed, it's no longer jism. It's jasad. It's jasad because it's simply material. The concept of jism, that we possess this jism, is that it is a composite of both spirit and body. And that the nutrition, the care, the cognizance of spirit is just as important as the cognizance of the body. If I insist that my body needs to be taken care of, I need to get my physicals, I need to pay attention to its nutrition, its rest, its resources, its tools, it's because I can see and measure its value in front of me. Because I can't see and measure the spirit doesn't mean that it is absent and it doesn't need care. I need to acknowledge and be aware of and pay attention to it. Which is why when Allah wants to set the example, His Ayyam are not simply a perfection in a physical form, they are a perfection in a spiritual form. So why the spiritual status of Sayyidah Zahra has to be unlike the spiritual status of anything else that exists. The most significant aspect of understanding the importance of why these spiritual statuses were explained, elaborated, structured, and these personalities embodied a perfection both spiritually and socially, physically, in the physical material world, was to make us understand that you will not be enough if only that you do is that which is good in environment. You need to be cognizant and aware of what this spirit needs as well too. So when we look at Sayyidah Zahra, we'll see examples of perfection where Allah is explaining to us her status of spiritual perfection that is unlike anyone else. Why are we mentioning this? Two reasons. One is that for us to grow our spirit, for us to bring awareness of our spirit, we need a teacher to tell us what do we need to do to help and train our spirit. Two, we need a wasila. We need a connector. That in the absence of having the perfection of knowledge to know exactly what it is and who Allah is and exactly how to attach ourselves to Him, we go through someone who connects us to Allah, who has a better understanding than ourselves. So having ma'rifah of one who has a greater status in the eyes of Allah will be a process by which we attain proximity to Allah. And two, it will give us an example of how to approach Allah by looking at and learning from that example. So there are 3 points of spiritual perfection that we notice in the personality of Sayyidah Zahra that we'll mention today. The first of which we begin with your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This hadith qissa that we mentioned, within this hadith qissa, we talk about the event of what's called the qissa or the cloak. The significance of mentioning the event of the cloak and why it is something we begin our majalis with, we mention in our houses, we mention in any environment of dua or need that we possess, is that within this event and within this narration is the dua that one who mentions this receives relief and comfort in this world and benefit in the hereafter. The other element of why this is necessary and why it needs to continue to persist in our households and it needs the investment of time is it is the definition of aqeedah and understanding how to approach Allah. That these personalities were different than the rest of society and that when we need to connect to Allah, we need to go through these personalities, not anyone else. This isn't the only place that the uniqueness of their status is mentioned, but that this is a facilitated process to make sure that, O mu'mineen, this is your direction of attaining proximity to Allah, is come through these people and then you will attain closeness to Allah. So our aqeedah is fortified by knowing that when I want to know Allah, I should look at how they behaved. When I want to know about the hereafter, I should look at how they behaved. When I want to know about nabuwwat, I should look at how they behaved. When I have a question about faith, these are the people that I'm attached to. The repetition of their mention and their superiority is something that continues to ensure that when we get confused by environment, when we have a question, we know where to turn. When we look within this hadith, Allah is introducing to us who His chosen people are. But Allah doesn't just introduce to us His chosen people. He introduces to the residents of the heavens His chosen people. Within hadith qissa, Allah says, O angels, I have not created the heavens or the earth, the sun and the night and the moon and the darkness and the light, except for the love of these 5 people. When Allah gives this statement, the malaika ask a question that, oh Allah, then who is it that are these 5 people? Explain to us how to understand and know who are these people. Allah in that instance, to introduce the 5 anwar, the 5 lights of Ahlul Bayt, Allah makes the introduction by saying, Hum Fatima wa abuha wa ba'luha wa banuha. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad. A fair question to ask is Rahmatul lil Alameen is present. Remember something. Any characteristic possessed within the Ahlul Bayt gives no superiority over Rasulullah. Rather, it is a reflection of the superiority of Rasulullah. When we talk about the fadail of Amir al-Mu'mineen, no Shia ever should believe that they are saying that Ali ibn Abi Talib was greater than Rasulullah. Ali ibn Abi Talib himself says, Ana abdun min abidi Rasulullah. I am a servant from amongst the servants of Rasulullah. The mentioning of the fadail of Ali ibn Abi Talib is to explain that if this Rahmatul lil Alameen has a wasi, the wasi has to possess these characteristics to be worthy of serving someone like the Holy Prophet. All of their light comes back to the source of Rasulullah. Then why is it that when Allah makes the introduction to the people of heaven, He introduces them by the name of Fatima and not the name of Rasulullah? Remember, Fatima is the khair al-kathir given to Rasulullah. She is that which is the gift from Allah to the Prophet. Yet she is the basis by which the introduction to the inhabitants of the heavens is given. There are 2 explanations we'll mention and many more that have been written about and volumes that have been written about that. Why would in this hadith Allah make the responsibility of making the introduction by Fatima and not by her father? One of the explanations comes to the statement and says that when we look at the anwar of Ahlul Bayt, the light of Ahlul Bayt, the light of Nabuwat and Imamat were 2 elements that were attached in the backbone of Adam and sent to humanity and placed together until the grandfather of our Holy Prophet. At which point in time the nur of Nabuwat was given to Abdullah and the nur of Imamat was split and given to Abu Talib. The rejoining of that nur was on the basis of this Fatima. That from her the nur of Nabuwat and the nur of Imamat is joined again and given to the children of Rasulullah. For the reality of that to happen, that her status is the one who brings these nur and light together, so therefore Allah makes the introduction by saying the one who joins all of these lights is none other than this daughter of Rasulullah. So to know where this light collects is in Fatima. This is one explanation. The other explanation comes to the point and mentions that the nur and the light of Sayyidah Fatima was not like the light of Nabuwat and Imamat. You see, as I mentioned, the light of Nabuwat and Imamat was placed in the backbone of Adam. Every ziyarat that you recite for every imam, you recite a statement that I swear that you are Ashhadu annaka kunta nuran fil aslab al-shamikha wal arham al-mutahhara lam tunajjiska al-jahiliyatu bi anjasiha. Every Imam Ziyarat says this, that says, I swear you are the pure light that was put in the backbone of Adam and in the pure wombs of your mothers, and you are never one who was influenced by ignorance. The exception to this is the Ziyarat of Fatima Zahra. Sayyidah Fatima was not put in the backbone of Adam. She was a nur that was kept in the heavens, which is why when we talk about the wiladat of Sayyidah Fatima, the wiladat of Bibi Fatima is not like the wiladat of anyone else, but rather she is a light from heaven that was given to Rasulullah when he went to Mi'raj or when he completed a process of ibadat of Allah. Which says that this nur of Bibi Fatima stayed in the heavens until it was time for her to be revealed. She was not in the backbone of Adam and her forefathers. The reason this becomes relevant is that when Allah introduces to the people of the heavens who are the Ahl al-Kisa, He introduces Ahl al-Kisa by the one that the people of the heavens are most familiar with. that the nur of Sayyidah Fatima was in the heavens the longest, worshipping Allah. These people worshipped with Sayyidah Zahra the longest. Therefore, when he wants to introduce Ahl al-Kisa, he introduces them through the most familiar, who was Fatima, and then he introduces Abuha wa Ba'luha wa Banuha. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. In this aspect, we see that the creation of Sayyidah Zahra is not like the creation of anyone else. The attribute that she possessed was something that was completely unique, that the people or the beings of heaven were familiar with her, which is why she is known as Hawra Insiya, the angelic being in human form, because her creation was not like the creation of the rest of humanity. And this becomes one of the aspects of her superiority, of her light and understanding who she was and why her spiritual state was something by which the rest could be recognized. The second of these points looks at one of the traditions of our Holy Prophet and the complexity of the statement that he makes. Our Prophet makes a statement. He says, Fatima bad'atum minni. Fatima is a piece of me. Yaradallahu biridaha wa yaghdabu bighadabiha. Allah is pleased where Fatima is pleased, and Allah is angered where she is angered. This statement by our Prophet is one of the most complex statements I could ever explain to you. You see, it goes against the nature of how we understand and know about Allah. We are pleased when Allah is pleased, right? Our happiness should be tied to the happiness of Allah. Allah in this statement is saying that His happiness and pleasure is where Fatima's happiness and pleasure is. That's a powerful statement. There are three ways of understanding this statement. The first of these says that the actual meaning of this statement has nothing to do with the reality of Allah's pleasure being tied to her pleasure. Rather, it is an inhisari statement. You see, if I say that when Allah is pleased, I am pleased, there's an opportunity or a moment where I can be pleased, but Allah is not pleased. All we know is that when Allah is pleased, I am pleased. But is it possible for me to be pleased and Allah not to be pleased? Yes. But when we say that Allah is pleased when I am pleased, it means that the only time that I am pleased is when Allah is pleased. To show the direct relationship, to say that the pleasure and anger of Allah, that Sayyidah Zahra was never happy and never angry, only in the instances where Allah would be Allah would be angry or Allah would be happy, are the instances where you would see her pleased and happy, or you would see her angry and upset. That her own opinion held no value. Only the desire of Allah was reflected in her actions. This is the first of the meanings of understanding that why was this statement by our Prophet made to say that Allah is pleased when she is pleased and Allah is angry when she is angry. The second statement goes a little bit further. You guys ready? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. To understand the second statement, there is a hadith. It's like a story. In this story it says that Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain, his children, were writing. And they were writing in their scripts, and they had two different scripts, two different writing styles. Imam Hassan says, they were little children. Imam Hassan says, my handwriting is more beautiful than yours. Imam Hussain says, no, my handwriting is more beautiful than yours. The two of them in their comparison go to their mother and say, oh mother, which one of our handwriting is better? Sayyidah Zahra says, I can't answer that for you, go to your father. They go to the father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, they say, father, which of our handwriting is better? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I can't answer that for you, go to your grandfather. This happens in every household, it happened in that household too. They go to our Prophet, the Prophet looks at their two handwriting and they say, father, grandfather, which one's handwriting is better? Rasulullah says, I can't answer that for you, we'll ask Jibreel. Rasulullah asked Jibreel which of their handwriting is better. Jibreel says, I can't answer, Allah has to answer. Jibreel asks Allah, these two children have come with a question of whose handwriting is better, which one is better? Allah says, I will not answer, ask Fatima to answer. When it comes back to Sayyidah Zahra, she says, okay, my son, sit. She says, I have this necklace that has beads. What I will do to answer this question, I will open the necklace and pour out the beads. Whichever one of you collects more beads, his handwriting is better than the other. So sure enough, she opens this necklace and pours it down, and Allah commands Jibreel to ensure that both of the sons receive exactly the same number of beads. What's the significance? There's a few points of significance in here. One is when Allah is demonstrating the ismat of these imams, their ismat was not something that was tied to their maturity. It was something that began from even their infancy. That if one is making a claim and the other is making a claim, if one is right, that means the other is wrong, therefore both have to be right. Two, Allah is demonstrating and showing that through the position of Sayyidah Zahra is the pleasure of Allah is tied to that statement, and that she is the manifestation of the pleasure of Allah. That she is the reflection of what the desire of Allah is to be fulfilled in that moment. Why? One attribute and element in this conversation makes the statement to say that, for example, whenever we look at the seerah of Rasulullah, we see the seerah of Anbiya. That when we look at the Prophet, we see the example of all of the Anbiya. And we see the example of all of the teachings of the Anbiya. When we look at the seerah of the Ayyam and the Imams, we see the seerah of everyone who is titled an Imam, their seerah is attached to that seerah. Sayyidah Zahra's uniqueness in her position is that Allah has tied her uniquely to Himself. That in her seerah you do not see all of Nabuwat, you do not see all of Imamat, rather you see the entirety of what Allah desires to see in humanity. And it is not an example of saying that an Imam does this or a Prophet does this, but rather that anyone who has a love for Allah, this is where you will find them. This discussion presents the argument of saying that this idea of showing that in her is everything that pleases Allah is to say that from anywhere that you look, whether you look outside of the scope of Nabuwat or you can't look through Nabuwat, if you can't look through Imamat, you still have the ability to know what it is that Allah desires from you at any moment in time. This winds up being the second explanation. The third explanation, with your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, is the tie back to this hadith kisa. Say when Allah is saying hum Fatima wa abuha wa ba'luha wa banuha, and Allah is then saying that yaradallahu bi ridaha wa yaghdaballahu bi ghadabiha, is the demonstration of showing that this is His way of approaching to the Ahlul Bayt. And that to understand the Ahlul Bayt and who are the Ahlul Bayt, you look through her and you will find them. That those who come from her lineage are the ones that are the representatives of Allah on this earth. And it brings it back to the process of understanding that all of the Ayyam have to be the son of Sayyidah Zahra. And that she is the authority of knowing what it is that Allah desires on this earth. The fourth explanation of this gets very technical. It talks about the idea that when we want to see the tashri', the hukum, ahkam of Allah, how do we see them? The Quran is from the lawh, it is from the tablet. But all of the ahkam of Allah, the manifestation of how to understand them, is through the example of these ma'sumeen. That everything that Allah desires and wants in humanity has to be given in an example somewhere, that it has to be somewhere where it is explained, and the explanation of that is given through the ma'sumeen. Therefore, the ma'sum has to be exactly in everything that Allah desires, because they are the complete explanation of what Allah's commands are. There has to be someone who is a complete and perfect explanation of the command of Allah, and to understand that complete explanation, you have to be able to see someone who is only the reflection of Allah's will and desire. So therefore, tying yaridallahu bi ridaha wa yaghdaballahu bi ghadabiha is to say that if the hukum of Allah exists, this is the manifestation of learning what is the hukum and command of Allah. In its entirety, it becomes fascinating to understand why our Prophet would make this statement, which brings us to the third and final characteristic of spiritual superiority of Sayyidah Fatima, with your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One of the most important elements that we always have to remember is we were not created for this world, we were created for the hereafter. Us as an entity, our body is tied to the existence of this world, but our spirit is something that was created outside of this world. The completion of this examination and the realization of what we are, what we promised, and what we are entitled to is completed on the Day of Judgment. That on the Day of Judgment, every spirit and every body that existed in this world receives its reward and punishment. Therefore, in that environment is the explanation and the showing of what is khair al-kathir, that great goodness that will be given to Rasulullah will not be given to anyone else. Which is why, when asked, why was this daughter of yours named Fatima, our Prophet explained, لِأَنَّهَا فَاطِمَةٌ شِيعَتُهَا عَنِ النَّارِ, that this Fatima will be the one who separates. لأنه Fatima is one who separates. That she will be the one who separates her Shia from the fire of hell. Meaning that those who follow the example of Ahlul Bayt, it will be her wasila on the Day of Judgment that will be the example by which separation will be made from those people who receive a reward and those who did not follow her instruction receive a punishment. This is that example that we mentioned in the beginning of having ma'rifah and understanding of what is the status of these personalities, of knowing that there is a differentiation, that when there is a question of what is right and what is wrong, we can look at these personalities and find the path that Allah wants us to be on. This is why the description of her entering into the field of Mahshar and the Day of Judgment is something unique. That she enters on a camel made of jewels that is carried by over 70,000 angels and proceeds to the beginning of the elements of receiving the reward of Allah, and refuses to enter until the Shia are there to join her. And the description is to say that those who are the Shia of Zahra will be chosen from the field the way a bird chooses good seed from the bad when it pecks at the ground. That the affiliation with this personality will be something that will be of great benefit to those who understand it, and that she will be the one who differentiates between the one who receives reward and one who receives punishment. But in this description, there's an element of showing her modesty, because the mahshar is not just the spiritual status, but the physical experience as well too. That it's narrated that as she proceeds through the field of people, a caller calls out and says, "O humanity, turn away your eyes, the daughter of Rasulullah has proceeded amongst you." To show that her hijab and her modesty was something that will be honored even on that day. A poet makes a statement which is very difficult to absorb when we understand and see the statement. He says, "I imagine that on that day, when humanity will be commanded to turn away from looking upon Zahra as she enters into the Day of Judgment and takes those who are the followers of her father to the doors of heaven, that we imagine that even Rasulullah will be commanded to look away from her." This is a poet. And he makes his argument. He says, "I imagine that the Prophet will be asked not to look towards his daughter." And when we were to ask, why would you say such a statement? He says, because of the condition that I imagine Zahra enters the field with. The Day of Judgment is the Day of Intiqam, is the Day of Judgment. And Zahra was someone who was oppressed. That when she comes in the Day of Judgment and humanity is told to turn away, many will be told to turn away because of her modesty. But the father will be asked to turn away because of the condition of oppression in which she will enter the field of Mahshar. So what do you mean by the oppressed condition? They say, the poet writes, he says, "Did you not read that this young daughter of Rasulullah, when she left this world, her eye had been injured from the strike of the zalim. Her ribs had been broken." There is a discussion that says that there are two things that wept on the oppression of the shaheed. That the condition was so severe that objects wept at the severity of the oppression. One of those things that's said is, it said that in the field of Karbala, Aba Abdullah with his hands only dug one grave, which was the grave of his infant son Ali al-Asghar. That after the shahadat of every shaheed, Aba Abdullah took the martyr to the mother, the wife, the family,
so that they could bid a farewell. And every lady would come and bid farewell. The description was that the first who would come upon the martyr was Sayyida Zainab, to console the ladies and to say, my mother Zahra will accept from you. Be patient in this loss. But Asghar is one who did not receive this honor. Abu Abdullah did not enter the tents with Ali and al-Asghar. Why? Because every child had set their hopes that when Asghar gets water, we too will get water. So when Asghar comes back to the tents, Abu Abdullah does not enter the tents. Rather, he calls one lady out. Rabab, come and bid farewell, as every lady bid farewell. The famous statement of Rabab in that instance, when Sayyida Zainab was not there to comfort her, was Amithluka yanhari ya ibni. Oh my infant son, like you they also perform the nahar upon? I thought it was something they do to the camels. This was the patience of that mother who saw her 6-month-old infant who had been split from ear to ear. Abu Abdullah honored this one child and made for him a grave that he knew after my shahadat, every shaheed will be desecrated. But this infant of mine is so small, I cannot stand the idea of his desecration. He went behind the tents and he dug a grave using the dhul fiqar in his hand. The poets write, it's as if we would see Dhul Fiqar weeping in the field of Karbala. O sword of Ali, why do you cry in the hands of Hussain? The poet replies, he says that the sword should reply as it weeps, I was made for the defense of the religion of Islam, not for burying the grandchildren of Rasulullah. The other items that the poet described was in the possession of such a madloom were the earrings of Fatima to Zahra. The poets narrate and say that these earrings would have fakhr and honor, that since the day that Sayyidah Khadija, before she became shaheed, she left one thing. And Khadija, when she left, she did not have even cloth for her burial. She had given a gift that, give these to my daughter Fatima on the day of her wedding. You know, they describe and they say that Sayyidah Khadija at the moment of her shahadat, she wept. The ladies of Banu Hashim offered her consolation and said, O wife of Rasulullah, why are you crying? Certainly you are a member of heaven. You have sacrificed everything for Islam. Sayyidah Khadija would weep and she said that I am not crying for myself. I am crying for this daughter of mine, Fatima. I know how severe the women of the Quraysh are. Can you ensure to me that no woman shall ever strike my daughter, Fatima? Oh, Sayyidah Khadija, it was not the women who struck your daughter. It was the men of the Quraysh who raised their hands on your daughter. They describe and say that these earrings with honor would say, since the day of the wedding of Fatima, Malaika have come from the heavens to visit us, and they weep as they kiss us. And we could not understand why until that day that a mal'oon struck the face of this Hawra Insiya so severely that we broke in the ears of the daughter of Rasulullah. That will be the witness on the day of judgment, that Zahra will come with those earrings as well, with all of those things as well that show and say, oh Allah, give to me justice. My oppression was such that the enemy raised his hand on me in such a way when I defended your wali that he broke the earrings in my ear. The severity of the difficulties of Zahra are such that when we look and we see that when we are in a difficulty, we call out to Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ya Ali adrikni, Oh Ali assist me, Oh Ali help me. Abu Abdullah in the field of Karbala, they describe when he sat over the body of his son, he called out to his father, "O Fatih al-Khaybar, come to my aid now." Did you ever wonder who does Ali call to when he is in difficulty? Look at the time in the middle of the night when Amir al-Mu'mineen has to do the ghusl of the daughter of Rasulullah. Salman says, Amir al-Mu'mineen went inside for the ghusl. I sat outside and I would bring pails of water until one moment when Ali left the room, came outside, sat on the ground and began crying. I asked my master, "Oh my master, oh my commander, you are performing the ghusl of the daughter of Rasulullah. What is it that has made you cry?" The champion of the Arab, Amir al-Mu'mineen, weeping, calls out and says, "Salman, she had such wounds that even I did not know of them. How was she oppressed that she came to her final moments with ribs broken in a way, with a puncture by her ribs from the nail, that even Ali did not know of the severity of the condition that Zahra suffered." Such were the masayib of Zahra, that when she is to be buried at night, Ali completes the takfeen, completes the tahnit, completes the ahkam, and it is time now to proceed to the grave. He brings the children, says, "Oh my children, bid farewell to your mother." They say that 3 of the children came to the side of their mother and hugged her. But one of these children, who was sensitive, who had said, "Oh mother, I am the coolness of your eyes." Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "Hussain, why don't you bid farewell to your mother?" Abu Abdullah says, "Oh father, when Maryam left this world, she called out to Isa to come and bid farewell to her. I am no less than Isa. I will wait for my mother to call me and then I will go to her." Upon this complaint of Imam Hussain, they describe and say the kafan opened, the hands called out, "Ilayya, Ilayya, Hussain." Abu Abdullah clasps himself to the chest of his mother. Jibreel complains, "Oh Ali," seeing Hussain attached to the chest of his mother, the malaika in the heavens have begun weeping and crying. "Oh Ali, I worry that if you do not remove this Hussain from the chest of Fatima, that the heavens shall collapse on this earth." We say that Ali ibn Abi Talib lifted his young son from the chest of his mother. "Ya Malaika, where were you in Karbala? Why did you not cry and complain then? Why did not the heavens fall on this earth when Shimr sat on the chest of that very Hussein? Why did we experience that and you let this earth continue?" Amir al-Mu'mineen removes Hussein from his mother. The janazah proceeds to an undisclosed location. The anger of Zahra upon her enemies is known till today. That we do not know, O Zahra, when we come to Medina. We say salam to your father. We say salam to your sons. But where does the face turn when it wishes to pay its respects to you in this land? Amir al-Mu'mineen wanted to bury her in the night. It is important to know that a burial takes 2 mahram to bury a person. One to deliver the body below, the other to receive and place the body in the grave. But the oppression of Zahra was such, at the time of her shahadat, there were no 2 mahram men present. There are only 2 who went through this difficulty. One is Amir al-Mu'mineen, the other is Sayyid al-Sajideen in Sham. When Zainul Abidin had to bury his sister Sakina, there was no other mahram to assist him in lowering that body. In Sham we say, Zainul Abidin would call out, "Oh Ali, give me patience." And Hussein would lift his arms and say, "Sajjad, return my amana to me." Zainul Abidin would complain, "Baba, when you left Sakina in our care, her clothes were not burned, her ears were not ripped, her cheeks did not bear the marks of Malun Shimr." In that way we look when Amir al-Mu'mineen is alone, he is in difficulty. Tonight is that night of Shahada. Amir al-Mu'mineen to lower this body in the grave. There is no one to help him until Rasulullah, we would imagine, raises his hands. Ali, return my amana to me. Where did Zainul Abidin learn to complain of his condition? It was from his grandfather Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ya Rasulullah, her ribs were not broken. Her eye was not injured. Her Mohsen was not shaheed. Forgive Ali, I could not return your amana in the condition you had commanded. Ali ibn Abi Talib would bury Zahra and leave that night. The wasiyah of Zahra was, "Oh Ali, the grave is a house of loneliness. Do not leave me alone." Amir al-Mu'mineen would frequent this unknown grave in the nights to visit by her. In one instance it says that Ali ibn Abi Talib sat by the grave of Zahra and a condition of sleep overcame him. In his sleep he saw Zahra complain to him, "Oh Ali, return. My orphans are looking for me. Oh Ali, my orphans are in discomfort. Do not sit by me, go to the children." Amir al-Mu'mineen woke from his slumber. They said he immediately ran to the house. When he returns to the house, he hears the crying of an infant girl. He enters the house and he sees Zainab as a small child, sitting on the musalla of her mother. "Oh Ummah, Zainab calls to you. Oh Ummah, you do not come when I call you. Hi al-Masaib. Today you are crying over the loss of Zahra. Soon we will see you on the musalla of Ali. Soon we will see you with the janazah of Hassan. And then we will see you in Karbala, sitting by the body of Hussain." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره ندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم. With tears in your eyes, our du'as collectively by the wasila of Zahra, call out to Allah with your most sincerest of voices. Ya Allah, 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 Ya Allah. يا الله بحق فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها. Oh Allah, forgive our sins and cover our flaws. Oh Allah, make us from the Shia of Sayyidah Zahra, make us from the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen, make us from the followers of Ahlul Bayt. Ya Allah, there is a moment that is described when this Zahra was pressed between the door and the wall, that she called out, "Oh my son Mahdi, why do you not come to the aid of your mother?" Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Zaman. Answer the call of Zahra. Make us from the supporters of Sahib al-Zaman. Make our children and our lineage from the upright supporters of Sahib al-Zaman. Ya Allah, those who are present, those amongst the mu'mineen who are suffering through sickness and disease, by the mention of Zahra, remove their sicknesses. Ya Allah, fulfill our hajat, remove our difficulties, and give aman to the mu'mineen wherever they are. Entitle us to the ziyarat of Aba Abdullah in this world and the shafa of Aba Abdullah in the hereafter. Fatimiyyah Hussain.
फलक साथ है सर खुले जिब्रील है शोर यही है बपा आता है ताबूत ये फौजे मलक साथ है سر کھلے جبریل ہے ہو گیا محشر بپا آتا ہے تابوت زینب مغموم بھی روتی ہے سر پیٹتی کہتی ہے ماں فاطمہ آتا ہے تابوت جناب فاطمہ یوں وصیت کرنے لگی کہ یا ابوالحسن یا ابوالحسن گر چاہتے ہو قبر میں زہرا کو چین ہو دینا نہ رونا میرے حسن اور حسین کو یا ابوالحسن زینب سے بھی ہوشیار کے نازوں کی پلی ہے اور دوسرے حسین کیے رونے والی ہے ماتم حسین
فاطمہ زہرا فاطمہ زہرا فاطمہ زہرا فاطمہ زہرا او زہرا فاطمہ زہرا فاطمہ زہرا بعد تیرے نہیں جی پائے ہے بعد تیرے نہیں جی پائے گا کنبا اماں قبر زہرا پہ یہ زینب کا دھنوہا اماں قبر زہرا پہ یہ زینب کا دھنوہا اماں قبر زہرا پہ یہ زینب کا دھنوہا اماں قبر زہرا اماں ہے بعد تیرے نہیں جی پائے گا کنبا اماں قبر زہرا پہ یہ زینب کا اماں قبر زہرا پہ یہ زینب کا تھنوہا اماں کیسی بے دردی سے ظالم نے تماچا مارا کیسی بے دردی سے ظالم نے تماچا مارا تیری زینب نے تیرا دیکھا وہ چہرہ اماں قبر زہرا سب مل کے اے قبر زہرا اماں قبر زہرا اماں جو ستم آپ پہ ڈائے گئے دیکھے ہم نے جو ستم آپ پہ ڈائے گئے دیکھے ہم نے پہلو پہ کس طرح دروازہ گرایا اماں قبر زہرا تھنوہا اماں قبر زہرا اماں آپ کے غم میں ہے افسردہ میرے بابا علی آپ کے غم میں ہے افسردہ میرے بابا علی قبر پر آ کے وہ کرتے ہیں جو گریا اماں قبر زہرا تھنوہا اماں قبر زہرا تھنوہا اماں ہے بعد تیرے نہیں جی پائے گا کنبا اماں قبر زہرا پہ یہ زینب کا اماں قبر زہرا نب کا تھنوہا اماں محمد وآل محمد صلوات توجه الزيارة السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله